Are you going to do the same thing today you did yesterday and expect a different result? Change what you think, change what you do, and tomorrow will be different from today. You know why it's so simple for me? Because I have a lot of experience. You can only change your tomorrows by changing yourself today. Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. The Power is Within podcast. Glad you could join me today. And we are supposed to have special guest Lawrence D. Adams, but he has not clicked on yet. Maybe he got confused on the time. He's in a different time zone than we are, and I know I've done that before more than once. So we'll see if he comes on. We'll get him in here, but we're going to go ahead and go with the topic as is, which is spiritual and metaphysical aspects of dating. See if he comes on. We'll get him in here, but we're going to go ahead and go with the topic. What's up with that? That's me. Hang on. Spiritual and metaphysical. There we go. That's better. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here, you guys. So I was going to blame Frank for that. All right. So spiritual and metaphysical aspects of dating, game, and life. Spiritual metaphysical really is about the same thing. Metaphysical means beyond the physical. So I use that term because some people have a problem with spirituality. They think it connotates religion, which in reality it has nothing to do with the religion. Spirituality and religion are not the same thing. You may be a religious person but not be spiritual, and you may be a spiritual person and not at all religious. I don't consider myself religious. I think I'm spiritual, whatever that means. I believe in the beyond the physical. I believe what we see here is just an illusion of what we've created in our minds, although a very real one for sure. Today we have Claude.
I'm 20.
Paulina, I'm 15.
Okay, so it's just going to be us three today unless Lawrence joins in. And Henry, I don't know if he's coming or not. He's up there crashed out. Yeah. So we will proceed. I had some questions here for Lawrence, but we'll just go with them. We're starting out about masculinity. It seems to be masculinity is really getting bashed here in the States. I don't know why, but it certainly is. It's like, it seems like the women or whoever wants us to be feminine men, and I really don't think society can operate like that. So we've all heard of the term toxic masculinity. Have you ever heard of that, Paulina?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure.
But is it a common phrase you hear often, or well, when somebody uses it, what do they talk? Give me an example. You heard somebody say, "Oh, that's toxic. He's toxic masculinity," or whatever.
Usually, if a person, like one of my friends, is dating somebody, they're like, "Oh my God, he's so toxic." Like,
yeah, but that's just toxic in general. Toxic masculinity is when, for example, you're just bold, straightforward. You just tell the truth to somebody. To a girl, something that would something you don't mean in an offensive way, but they take it offensive. They automatically mean it's toxic masculinity. Okay. Like, if I told this one girl, like, "Oh, you look like you're kind of gaining a little bit of weight," she would think, "Oh, that's such a D thing to say."
Basically, anything derogatory or not derogatory, let's say that a woman doesn't like, she considers
toxic. Anything that's just straightforward, right. Like as a person, if
direct.
Just direct. Future, like a good example is Future. They call him the king of toxic masculinity because he's just straightforward about what he says. He doesn't care. Like when he said, "No fat BS girls in the club," they all thought that was toxic. But he doesn't want any fat girls in the club.
It's really like you can't use the word fat, although it's okay to call somebody skinny. But if you call them fat, you're shaming. You're fat shaming. You're being a jerk.
It's just being honest.
I'm gonna give a shout out here to Wade Emery. Wade, I want to thank you for the donation you made to the channel. I appreciate you. I see Thor's in the chat. Hey Thor, Skull. Glad you're here. And who else? Yeah, you guys. Okay. Well, we're moving right along here. We're going to roll with it. I'm not sure where Lawrence is, but maybe he'll come in here in a little while. So I've heard that term toxic masculinity used quite a bit. Um, Actually, I've never had anybody call me or say that I am toxically masculine, but I know that when I'm direct with women, a lot of times they take offense and they think I'm being rude. And I'm not using any derogatory language, but it's just when you really talk, I can talk to a man like that. But when I talk to a woman like that, they really take offense. I have a difficult time doing business with women over the phone or through the internet because they're, again, when I'm direct and straightforward, sometimes I take it as if I'm belittling them, but I'll ask someone who's listening to the conversation, am I being rude? I'm not being rude. I'm just really direct, and I guess I drop the niceties. Now, when I talk to a man like that, we have no problems whatsoever. But when I talk to a woman, they really just kind of don't deal well with direct, straightforward talk.
I mean, there are some girls who like.
Not all women. There are
Yeah.
exceptions. I'm not.
Yeah, there are some women who would like solely like date a guy because of his toxic masculinity. They call it toxic masculinity, but it's just in our eyes, it's just masculinity. It's for them, it's toxic, but to us, it's just general masculinity. It's being a masculine man. Some girls will date guys because they're masculine, but other women will see it as
Right.
toxic masculinity.
I had looked this word up before. Well, let's look up the word masculinity and see what it says. I think it says man and manly. I've got it once before. Qualities. This is the definition of masculinity. Qualities of or attributes regarded as characteristics of men. Uh, Virility, strength, vigor, manliness. Well, that really doesn't tell us too much, but masculinity. What does masculinity mean to you, Paulina? What is that? Just masculinity or masculine? What is a masculine man, in your opinion?
Someone who can lead in a
Okay.
relationship and not be a wussy.
And have you run into any young men like that lately?
Yeah, I have.
No, I mean masculine men.
Oh, no.
Come on, surely you've seen one or two. What happens? They start out masculine, and then what happens?
And then they like threaten to unalive themselves.
Threaten to delete. How about that?
Yeah,
Threaten to
delete
delete.
themselves.
And how many guys have you had threaten to delete themselves because you weren't, how would I say, giving them what they want or being their girlfriend or whatever it happens, or broke up with them, whatever it happens to be?
Probably everyone that I've ever dated besides like 2 people. So that's a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Sad but true.
Yeah, there's a lot of them who end up getting too comfortable in a relationship, and instead of being eventually they start putting their wants and all that sort of stuff, or the girl that they're dating, they'll put that in front of their priorities and all that sort of stuff, and that's what makes them become more soft, more weak. They're not seen as a man, as the man that she fell in love with in the first place.
Right.
They're not seen like that. They're just seen as a, like, I love him, I'm just not in love with him type of guy. That's
It's not you, honey. It's me.
Yeah,
I just need some space.
that's how they see you when you start getting too comfortable and you start putting them first.
There
But
must
the
be a
thing is-
script. I think there's a script they use.
I mean,
is there a script you guys use, Paulina?
No.
I'm joking about.
And there's the other thing where they don't like specifically go out there and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go, but they'll be like, okay, goodbye forever, and it's like, okay.
Ooh, the drama.
And then I see them like 2 weeks later with a new girlfriend. They're clearly alive. So
Oh man, they made it.
that's why when people say that now to me, it doesn't bother me because
You are a heartbreaker, Paulina.
because
Look at
like
the trail of broken hearts you're leaving behind you.
I just
Karma's gonna get you.
I don't know. I just kind of like I obviously care for people, but I stopped caring
Right.
when they say that because it's clearly
It's a manipulation technique. Usually.
I mean, if I, like, for example, what people would say is toxic masculinity is if I'm talking to a girl and her and I quit talking, she'll eventually, her and I'll quit talking. I'll go to the next woman, and then they'll think, "Oh my God, that's so toxic." It's like, no, I'm not gonna sit back and have you. I'm not gonna sit back and be like, "Oh, please take me back, take me back." Okay, all I gotta do is move forward. That's just what I'm gonna do. I mean, you gotta have options. Come on.
Hey, guess who's in the? All women have options. They they got the monkey branch. And they always got guys waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Guess who's on the chat? Sparty Fortune, the king.
Nice.
Paulina's
nice.
favorite guy. Well, you liked him when he came, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, she kind of thought you were attractive, Sparty. So.
Okay. Good job.
She hated you before. Remember, I told you. Sparty's in the chat. Welcome, Sparty. Sparty's been here on the show before. We'll have to have him back again via StreamYard, maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's enjoyable.
Okay, so where were we? I lost my train of thought here. I seen Sparty in the chat. We were talking about the monkey branching. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Guys wanting to delete themselves and what is masculinity.
They want you to not have options, but it's okay if they have options.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, from what you guys say and what I've seen, that anything that doesn't align up with the feminine agenda is considered toxic masculinity.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I guess calling a woman, I don't even know if I can say it on YouTube. I better not say it. How would I say it without saying it? Saying a woman is bigger than you like is I know on the dating sites, women have a tendency to complain about guys when they say they want this, and this from a woman, but then on the reverse side, they want a man that's 6 foot tall, 6-figure income, and 6-pack abs, and that's okay for them to say that. But anything the man says he wants doesn't go along with their agenda or they think is shaming is toxic.
Yeah, most of the time it's like, to them it's toxic masculinity, and I don't know if I got this right, but for some of them it's because it's masculine, but it's not masculinity that they can have or masculinity that they have around them. So that's why they call it toxic, because they've never had it around them. So then once it happens towards them, they think it's toxic.
Well, what does the word toxic mean, really?
Paulina can explain that better than I can.
Let's see what the dictionary.
You'd have to look up on the Urban Dictionary, because if you look at
just the word toxic, though, means poison.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a picture of Britney Spears here. First thing it comes up under toxic. I don't know why it doesn't say. What does it mean? Well, let's go with this. What it means to be toxic. A toxic person. I got to magnify it a little bit here. My glasses here. Let me see. Okay. A toxic person, man or woman, is anyone whose behavior adds negativity and upset to your life. Many times people who are toxic are dealing with their own stresses and traumas. To do this, they act in ways that don't present them in the best light and usually upset others along the way. Well, here the deal, seems to me. I understand what they're saying, but anytime you do something that upsets somebody else, I've heard people use that he's toxic. That's a toxic relationship. Almost any time they get into a disagreement, it becomes a toxic relationship. To me, a toxic relationship would be like you guys are fighting every day. Every day it's your fight.
Yeah.
You're going to have disagreements, and maybe sometimes some pretty intense disagreements. But I mean, you can, if it gets a little too heated, the best thing to do is to walk away from each other and calm down. Because men too, when they get emotional and heated, they need to calm down a little bit. Sometimes the woman's a little worse. And then you have the toxic relationships where the woman gets really emotional. She might start throwing things or what I've found women to do, and everybody's, I'm not bad-mouthing women. This is just one of their traits, I believe, is they will, when you get into a disagreement with them, instead of staying on the subject, they'll start attacking your character. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll bring up something from the past that has nothing to do with what's going on today. It has nothing to do with the subject that you're disagreeing about. So that seems to happen sometimes too.
It's anyway. I mean, I don't want to say anyway, but it's one way to win a conversation, change the subject.
Yeah.
It's like,
what's that called? Deflecting, isn't it? I think that's called deflecting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll jump onto a different subject and then they'll start bashing you for it, even though it has nothing to do with the whole reason the argument happened.
Right. Okay.
That's why people have a tendency to say, "Don't try to change the subject," because they it's just any way to try to win an argument.
Okay. So, how do you think we can improve the outlook on masculinity in the West, considering it seems to be getting a bad rap? What is causing this? You think is causing this idea that there's something bad about masculinity, that there's something wrong with being a man?
I'm not. I think it has more. I don't mean to be offensive, but I think that's something you have to ask a feminist. I mean, she's
not a feminist.
Yeah, that's just like something you'd have to ask a woman. I mean, I'm a man, so I personally don't think you need to change it. But I think maybe they could open their minds up to it, even though they don't want to, because of the fact that it's been common for hundreds of years, but all of a sudden now it's become it's become such a bad thing because it's become a bad thing because there's so many people who are weak now.
What do you think?
Before, when it was common, it was never a bad thing. But now that you got all these simps and all these guys that are soft and super nice and get used for their money, or they'll pay for OnlyFans, like all that sort of stuff, it's so uncommon that when it happens, automatically it's a bad thing.
Well, I've had mostly women in the U.S. on dating sites. I've had some of them get really offended when I was just being direct, and well, basically I wasn't simping, and they get pissed off that I don't submit to everything they. It's like if I ask them a question they don't answer, I say, "Hey, you didn't answer my question." It amazes me how they're so accustomed to men simping and just following their lead. Basically.
Yeah, and then
when you don't, they act like you're a jerk.
Another thing is, for example, a simp will be direct. They'll sugarcoat things, and in any way that they won't piss off the girl, so that they can at least hope to have a chance with her somewhere in the future. They'll be super nice about it. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you this and that," and most of the time it's just
kind of a nice
works.
Guy.
Yeah, pretty much a nice guy.
Yeah, nice guys really aren't nice because they have an underlying motive.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being honest with her. They're not being honest with themselves.
The best person you can ask is Paulina. I think she's got a view on it, don't you? Care to share with us?
About simps?
Oh, nice guys, simps, masculinity.
Yeah, what do you think? Like, what do you think about toxic masculinity? Like, do you think?
Well, yeah,
I've never really had it in my life.
Yeah.
So.
But masculinity. Well, see, now some people might think that when the boys are over here and they're wrestling and fighting,
that's
fun.
My brothers, though.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, some people may look at that as some kind of something wrong with. I mean, that's just the way kids do, and actually, all the animals in Animal Kingdom.
Well, here's a good question.
Maybe the reason why half the people that come over here think it's like wrong is because they don't have it in their life either.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you think it's looked at as such a bad thing, and what do you think could improve the fact? Like, could improve it? Just make.
I think the reason why it gets seen as such a bad thing now is because there's not much of it.
See, yeah.
There's not.
It's rare.
It's
it's uncommon.
It's extremely rare. Yeah. And if you find it, it's in like a older guy, and half the time, like these older 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds literally go after girls my age. I've had a whole bunch of them go after me, and they're simps. They have no form of masculinity.
Yeah,
and it's because they don't have a father figure half the time. Like they're either not around or something.
Or the father's
most
father's
of them
not leading the house. He's submitting to the wife.
Yeah, there's even older guys who are like simps now. I mean, you see it more commonly in younger guys, but you'll see it sometimes in older guys too.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, they have a tendency to be simps.
I'll tell you something I see a lot of on the dating sites is every time I turn around, some girls want me to pay her money or give her something for nudes.
Yeah, because there's thousands.
I mean, I get them out of nowhere. I don't even know where they get my number sometimes, and they're offering me. I said, no, I'm not into that. It's a common, almost an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, I had a buddy tell me like how he felt bad about it because he was like, oh, like I never said I would do it. It's like, I never said I would do something like that, like because he would always brag about it. And then he ended up doing it, and I'm like, man, you can't bash yourself. We all make mistakes, but it's like, but you're a man. Act like one, Hang around.
I was looking to see.
Yeah, if you're going through that, hang around some men. Find some,
I think, hang on. Yeah. I got the link, I think. Is he Frank? Mm. Are you awake back there?
Yeah,
is he trying to click in here?
He's not in here.
He said I just the link. I figured I thought he meant he got the link.
No, it's not. He's not. I would know if he would pop up right there.
But he sent me a message here, so that's why I'm wondering. I'll send him a message here and see.
No, you gotta put it up here if you want to do that.
I know.
He sent me a message that I just the link. I'm assuming he meant I got the link. If you are there, Lawrence, click on that link and see if you can join in with us. And we will continue. I don't know. Okay. We can't stay too long. He has to go somewhere at 7. Okay, now we go to femininity here. We're talking about that. But let's back up here a little bit of the metaphysical or spiritual aspect of this. What is going on? Um, why has
Sorry.
why has there been what do you think the metaphysical or spiritual reasons for this lack of masculinity are? It starts within each person. When I talk about metaphysical or spiritual, what I mean is the inside of the inner game. Why do you think these young men are lacking this inner strength? Because to be a man, they have to actually believe inside, whatever they believe they are inside is what they project.
Yeah.
So it may go back to what Paulina talks about. We don't have a masculine presence.
Yeah,
in
there's
the
no male
home,
role model.
so there's nothing to model.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't have anything to model, it's hard to get the inner man to be how you want him to be, because how are you going to visualize yourself being a man if you don't know what that is?
Yeah, because I mean, like as a man, as a boy, when you see your dad and you see him as a strong man, like someone who's, masculine, you want to be just like that. You want to project the same thing that he projects,
Right.
which is being a man. That's what kids want to do. But now, as a little kid, the mother becomes the man of the household. She's the one that's got the strength. She's always going out, and you got the dad being the house husband. So then that kid decides that, okay, well, if he can be a house husband, why can't I? But that's not masculine. That's
Right.
pretty much betatizing yourself. I mean, you, for example, you take care of all of us, and you show us how to be a male role model, and then I'll go to a friend's house. I won't say any names. I'll go to a friend's house and I'll see their dad. And their dad will be the house husband. It just doesn't
Right.
look, in my eyes, I could tell it's not masculine.
Yeah, how many times I hear, let's ask the boss. When I was coming back from Mexico last week, I heard a guy on the line. He passed me. He said, how did he say it? Dad's the boss until mom gets home.
Yeah, like a good example is they'll make jokes. Like a kid will ask his mom, he's like, hey, mom, can I go to my friend's house? And then the kid will be like, the mom will be like, no. And then he'll be like, come on. She's like, go ask your dad. So he'll go to the dad. He'll be like, hey, dad, can I go to my friend's house? And the dad will say, what'd your mom say?
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, she said no. And he's like, okay, then no.
Yeah.
That still makes
yeah.
her
Sometimes men get complacent is what happens. Is he clicked on the link, or do you have?
Yeah, that's why.
You sure? Wait a second. I'm sorry.
All right.
You sure we're not having problems on our end? There's nothing. He said he's got the link, so I told him to join us.
Yeah, that's why sometimes
he might be having some trouble.
They say ask the boss, and the boss ends up being the wife.
Yeah.
Ends up being the mother.
Yeah, that's often true. Let me see. We're going to go on to the next point we have here.
I mean, if mom was around and I wanted to go to a friend's house, or I was like with my buddy Cam, and I was like, he asked me, he's like, you want to go to the movies? I wouldn't say, oh, I gotta ask my mom. I'd be like, I'll ask. I have to ask my dad, because I mean, you're the man of the household. I gotta ask you, because I mean, could ask her. More than likely, she's gonna say no. But you'd probably ask the man, because the man will tell you whether to stay home or go to the movies.
Well, the women or the mothers, they do a lot better job of caring for kids than men do. Men are like, okay, go ahead. So that's why you really need the mother and the father in the house, because it balances out.
Yeah.
He's here.
Is he here? Oh, okay. You want to bring him on?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey.
Please accept can you hear me?
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Hey, glad Lawrence is here. Glad you could join us.
I apologize. Believe me.
No problem. I know how it is sometimes. Glad you're here. We kind of got started here, but I had, I'm going to go ahead and introduce yourself, Lawrence.
Sure. My name is Lawrence D. Let me get my camera straight. Here we go. My name is Lawrence D. Adams, and I have a show on YouTube called called The Thinking Class. when spirituality and the game combines. And I talk to men. I talk to men and women about the importance first to men about the importance to be spiritually connected, as well as physically, mentally, and spiritually connected. And we go from there, and it's called the thinking class.
Well, I like that, and I've listened to some of your content, and I like it because you talk about the spiritual side, and we were just discussing that before. Why are these like Paulina's 15, so she goes out with these young guys, and they end up making her the center of their life, and I think that can go back to they don't have a relationship with either their father to for a masculine presence or a relationship with God or a higher power. No, so they're so focused on that. I think for a man, at least for me, I have to have first in my life has to be my relationship with God. I'll say it that way. But my conception of God may be different than other people's. But and then second would be my mission, and third would be my woman instead of putting it. But
Yeah,
what these guys are doing is they're putting her almost as they're idolizing her like a god. And
mhm.
of course, she doesn't like that. No woman likes that.
Yeah, a lot of guys tend to do that now.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like I heard, I was sort of tapping in a little bit. A lot of times, the reason why they will put a woman on a pedestal is because they don't know who they are, or they don't know who their God is, who is within. And so what they do is they end up putting a woman on a pedestal and not realizing they've been so used to doing that they think that that's what a woman wants, and she really doesn't. And I even said it in my show many times. A woman doesn't want that. She wants to come into your world where she can say, "Hey, my man is doing this.
Right.
I'm a part of his world." Not, "Hey, guess what? I'm over my girl house and she got a new bike, and I love her bike."
Yeah.
Doesn't want
Yeah. They put the woman ahead of everything, and
that.
she
Right.
doesn't like that. But see, it seems to me though, in society today, the media, social media, they push that narrative of, yeah, make her your everything, or put her first, or and a lot of women even say that they want to be treated like a queen. I'm sure you've heard that, or like a princess. And you have to watch what they respond to, not what they say they want,
Hmm.
because that just never. What's the old saying? Treat her like a queen, she'll treat you like a servant. There's a lot of truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
Treat her like a star, she'll treat you like a fan.
Right.
What do
Yeah.
you think about this term? They're really. It seems to be that masculinity is really getting bashed. What do you think about the term toxic masculinity? It seems to be thrown around everywhere. Just every time someone doesn't disagree with a feminist or certain women.
Well, I think the reason why I think when you hear toxic masculinity, a lot of times when we hear it, where was toxic masculinity, say 20 to 30 years ago? It wasn't even a term.
No, I never
So
heard it.
and so with toxic masculinity is another slick way or a creative way to shame men for being men.
Yeah,
So when you use the term, it's the way to say, hey, you're being a man. And just because you're being a man and you're doing not what I think you should do, you're being toxic. And since you're being toxic, I'm going to tell everybody that you are a toxic masculine man. And
yeah,
I don't like it. And really, what was happening is it sounds like people who are still little kids mad because they couldn't get the toy they wanted, and the toy's not doing what they think they should do.
yeah. Yeah, it sure seems like masculinity is taking a big hit, and then we have so many men growing up, like Paulina talks about, and I see it here because I have young boys without a masculine presence in the house, and then when they do have a masculine presence, he's really not masculine. And I think a little bit of that, or maybe a lot of that, has to do with there's such a government or court involvement in the marriage that once you get married here in the States, at least in my experiences, the woman has all the power. If everything, if it ever comes down to a divorce or anything like that, you're really in a pretty bad shape. And there's none of this. There's no fault divorce now. They can pretty well do it. I mean, bottom line, at least in my state, you could be a man and come home, and your wife could be in bed with another man, and she could say, "Well, sorry you don't like it. Get out of here." And if he said anything, she could call, or she could go up here and get an ex parte against him and just say that he threatened, and then we'll give it to her, because the judge, if he doesn't give her that, and a woman gets killed, then his face is all over the media. Okay, but if he throws 100 men out of their houses when the woman was being dishonest, there's nothing ever said about it.
Right. Yes, it's we're in a good place and a bad place in history. And just studying history even today, realize that this is not the first time this has happened. And if you look at it, there's been times in history where and this has happened where the man has been the default person who takes the hit. And it's like, oh, we want the women to take charge and this and like that. And after a while, you'll see decline in that society, or that society actually disappears.
Yeah, it
When
just
the
doesn't
men,
work.
yeah, it doesn't work. And what happens is when the men are in position, they actually push the society forward. And I think that's where we are at right now, where we need the men to step back up and to push the society forward and say, you know what? Okay, you guys and said all this stuff, you got into your feelings. This is the direction that we need to go in.
Yeah. Well, I really think a lot of men blame the women, but we've allowed it to get there by not leading, by supplicating, by passing or it was bad. You grew up about the same time I did. So
Yeah.
when I was a kid, we had a lot of people drank in my neighborhood, and there was one guy that drank quite a bit, and he used to beat on his wife, and the police never came. Nobody did anything. Of course, that we don't want that, but we've gone so far the other way. I know men that the woman actually is beat on him, and the police come, they take him to jail.
Right.
So it's gone. The pendulum has swung so far the other way. But I still blame men. Well, maybe we won't use the word blame, but we'll say they should take responsibility because we tried to make things better for women, but we've given them so much power. And women get emotional. I've seen this happen. They'll get angry at their husband, boyfriend, throw him in jail for something he didn't do, and then go out the next day, try to get him out. But the state has already picked it up, so it's too late.
Yeah.
So they can't handle that when they get emotional. Now, not all women, of course, but the majority of women are more emotional than men, and they will act on those emotions. And in a crisis situation like that, they do things that they can't take back.
Right. That's very true. I think that's why it's so important to have men who are not emotionally driven, but actually driven by their logic. And we have in this day and age, we have a lot of men who are emotionally driven. I mean, it's
Yeah,
happening in all facets of life right now. We have a lot of men who are just very emotional. I think I said that Friday. They're lost in Disney. They couldn't wait. I'm not trying to get against somebody who wants to go to Disneyland, but a lot of men have a whole Disney fantasy of what they think the family is. Instead of the
right.
hardcore reality of what raising a family really is.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. And then now we have both. Actually, I was talking to a woman last night who was cutting my hair, and she was telling me how I don't know how many guys she's beat up a couple guys, knocked their teeth. She actually believes that there's probably not too many men that could take her down. And I said, well, I said if you were beating them up, then they must be pretty beta or weak. I said, but probably what it was they didn't want to hurt her. So, but I mean, but she believed that well, we both go to work, and she says I don't need a man, but she's got 3 kids, and I guarantee her ex-husband is paying child support. So women constantly want to say they don't need a man, but it's my belief that us men have set up the society where they don't need a man directly. They live in an illusionary world which really is supported by men. Because I was telling her, I said, well, you don't see men building the sky or women building the skyscrapers, the roads. I know a lot of carpenters. I know people work on construction. I said, it's probably less than 1%. I said, they couldn't maintain it. I said, they can't work all day. During World War II, they increased the workload from women were started working then, as you probably know. They increased the workday from 8 hours to 12 hours, and the accident rate in women went up 150% with women, but it didn't go up with men. We're just different. And this push for sameness to me is just ridiculous. We're not the same. I'll never have a baby, and that's okay. I'll never be able to emotionally administer these kids and nurture them the way their mother could. It's just the way it is. I don't have that in me, but they get angry because a lot of them they want equal. How do I say it? They want equality, and I think we're all equal in the eyes of God, but we're just not the same. It's just different.
It's completely different. I'm actually in the trades, and you can count how many women are in my trade right now. And guess what I have, even at my particular job? Zero.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
at the number 2 hospital in the nation I work at. So it was only one woman in the trades.
yeah. I know.
That,
That's what I'm.
that's what
Yeah,
lets you know. Not saying that she couldn't do it, but at the same time, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Well, and we had that swimmer, that man swimmer that transitioned to, and what was he, about 140th or something as a man, and all of a sudden, as a woman, he's knocking it out. And then we had the UFC fighter that came in, and they didn't even know that he had been a man. He was just manhandling everybody until they found out he had transitioned. So right there, it shows you that there's a vast difference between the biological differences of strength and everything between men and women. But we got women out there acting like men, but I'm not blaming them. They're raised to be career women, but that's good for the for taxes. That's what they found out during World War II. We got two people working, we get more money, more taxes,
Correct.
more consumerism. As you know, women spend, what is it, 85% of the money, but men make most of it.
Right.
So that's another thing. You got them out there. If we can get them out there and keep them working. But I really think we see the evidence of the mothers not in the homes by the school shootings and all these other things that's going on today. There's no, the family is the government, is the small government, the nucleus of the government of the country, I believe. And the breakdown of the family is the eventual breakdown of the country.
Yeah. When you look at it, if we were to do, and I don't know what right offhand, if we were to do just a small survey of how many of the shootings that took place, and the first thing you're going to look at is where's the fathers, and you
Yeah,
realize fathers have not been effective. They might have been there just because a father was there doesn't mean he was effectively there. That makes the difference.
right. What's the
Father,
old saying? Fathers keep their sons out of jail and their daughters off the stripper poles. And I know because through my dating life, I saw a lot of difference. When I would go out with a girl that had a father, a man in the home, I didn't. I know there was this one girl. She wanted to be with me, and I wouldn't be with her because she had a father there, and I was a player, so I just didn't want to. I walked away from her, as opposed to a girl who doesn't have a father around. I wasn't too worried about anything there, so I definitely treated them differently and thought differently about girls who had a father in the home because that father come and stomp your head every time.
yeah, it makes a big difference when the father is present. Actually, you begin to move a little differently because he is there. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of times we don't look at that when it comes to the lack of fathers being there. And
right.
I was saying something even this recently. I was dating someone, and her father is way in another country.
Yeah,
And even then, I can tell the difference in how she acted. If her father was here in this
right.
country, it would have made a
Yeah.
whole difference of how did she respond to certain things.
Right. And then we have the fathers in the home. Henry here. This is Henry. Henry, this is Lawrence. He has a friend, don't mention the name,
Okay.
young man, 20, 21. And his father is not masculine. He allows I guess, his wife to run the house. And how does he talk to his father?
Yeah, he'll tell his dad to shut up and be like, "Shut up, old man." He's like, "Give me money," or.
Just complete disrespect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Complete disrespect. It's just incredible. Now, he's been over here. I've never seen, he wouldn't talk that way around his, I would not allow that. He could do it, but I've never seen him act that way around here. He's respectful, but I was amazed when he told me how he talks to his father.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have young men, because the father's not in the home, and they will talk to their mother like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard of that.
Yeah.
It's just because teenage boys, I mean, these guys, it's just the way it is. I think it's in the animal kingdom and it's with young men. They get to be about a certain age, they want to challenge the boss of the house.
Yeah.
And now
Oh,
these
yeah.
boys did that one time, and we won't go any further than that, but they didn't do it again, and they respect me more today. That's just the way it is. But if you don't have a masculine presence in the house, had that not happened, and had we not dealt with it as we did, they'd be running the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. I have two sons, one in the military and one
So
is in college.
.
So both of them. It's funny. The oldest one tried it, and mind you, the mother of my two sons, we were not together, so we were in two different households. But at
Right,
the end of the day, I'm in charge of both households because I am the father.
right.
So I would have to call him over there and say I had to deal with the oldest one. Finally, he got himself together. So now it was a younger one's time to show out or to show his masculinity. And it was funny because my oldest was getting ready for college. He never said a word. He packed his stuff up. He didn't warn his brother what was about to happen. And boom, it happened. My youngest was on the ground crying. And it wasn't that
Yeah,
I hit him anything. He just forgot that I'm a little faster than him, even though he lift weights, he can lift 500 pounds,
Right.
on the ground. And he was realizing that dad still had some moves, and he um, woke up and cried, I love you, mommy. I love you, daddy. Oh,
Yeah,
now
but
he's
see, people don't realize that this is just part of
part of
human nature.
it. It
And
is.
it's actually, I mean, of course, somebody would call that toxic. They would call it toxic what happened here, but it's men. That's the way we are.
Yeah.
But oh, that's too violent. That's toxic. How could you do that? And but everybody's crying for toxic. I guarantee they're not bitching about toxic masculinity in Ukraine right now. What do you think?
No, because we're all the women that was like, I mean, we're all the women. We should have seen all the women say, "Oh, men are toxic." Send them right to Ukraine to fight. You know
Yeah.
what? I think I'm going to get my purse right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you what, I was fortunate. I just missed the Vietnam War, but I had a couple friends came back from over there, and one of my first mentors about 35 years ago, he told me some things they did that he wasn't proud of, but I mean, they would definitely call it toxic masculinity. But in war, you become very animalistic. And when you got little kids, little boys and girls coming up with hand grenades, with guns trying to kill you, you don't think of them anymore as a person. And those people really got shamed when they came back because that was the first time that the war was actually on the news. Baby killers and all this. But even though I wasn't there, I understand that because you got to do what you got to do to survive. But it was easy for people to sit back here and judge that because they weren't over there trying to make it and trying to live and having people that look like they're innocent coming up trying to kill you. Now,
I think
it
it's
takes
funny.
toxic masculinity to kill a kid or a person, even if they don't have a gun or whether they do. And, it's hard to live with that, but you do it and you go on. You don't have time to sit there and cry and, oh, I feel terrible. I need some therapy. Let me get over this. And you just got to go on. And that's what men can do, as opposed to women aren't really capable of doing that as well as the men can.
I just funny people. It's funny people have more conversation who never do anything than people who have done things have little conversation on what they've done.
Yeah.
Makes sense, and it's amazing that I don't need to tell you that I took Taekwondo. That's none of your business. But if you
Yeah.
find out, if you get into an altercation, you'll find out that I took Taekwondo, and you'll
Right.
find out once your eyes, and then look, you got your eyes out your head. You know what I mean? You'll find out then.
Well, see, that's something else too. Yeah, that's very important too, to be able to know you have a skill. When
Right?
you're out, you can handle yourself, and there's a
Yeah.
certain presence and aura that you exude because of that. It's like working out. It's not so much because I used to box, amateur and professional. It's not so much that the way you look, or you can say, "Oh, I'm this or I'm that." It's the way you feel, and that precedes you. They can feel that. To be able to handle yourself in most any situation it's a feeling that comes out from you, and it precedes you as you go out. And that's what these guys don't realize. I tell a lot of guys, get in some contact sport, whether it's football, taekwondo, boxing, UFC, whatever it is, for yourself, because there's something about getting punched a few times that it's just a man thing. Women won't understand that. Maybe some will, they box, but it's just a man thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
interesting. I think when I was a kid, I got into a couple of altercations, and I'm thinking about one in junior high school where the guy kept talking. I said, you know what? Okay. I said this out of my mouth. I said, you know what? I don't want to get suspended. So I walked away, and I was about to sit down, and all the women in the class, all the girls in the class, like, oh my God, he said that to you. Somehow I feel like Bruce Lee. I got up, and I thought I was in a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah.
Walked over to the guy, and he kept on talking. So before he stood up, it's called control kicks. I do 2 control kicks that don't hit him. And everybody's like, ooh. He said, you ain't going to do it again. Next thing you know, I was suspended. I missed
Yeah.
the Halloween party.
But you got some honor. You got some honor. It's almost discouraged nowadays to stand up for your honor. I think it was Dan Pena. He talked about this snowflake test where they asked the question, "What would you do if you're walking with your mother and someone come up and spit in her face?"
Oh,
And nobody said I would punch him. Well, I would ask him if he's having a bad day, or was just like,
no.
"What the hell?"
No. You will find out. I don't care what I have. Keys, I have my foot. I will bite you. I will pull your hair. You would be like Mike Tyson. Your ear will be gone. I would do everything would be you would forget. I may lose, but you would know I was there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see now, as I said it, I thought, oh, I hope we don't
Yeah.
get like we're promoting violence. I am not promoting
No, that's
violence.
not
I am
right.
promoting self-defense and
Self-defense.
defense of the weaker person that's with you, whether it be your mother, your wife. I've had to stand up when I lived in another country for my it was my ex-wife, my wife at the time, because someone tried to assault her on the street. I mean, I got the guy down. I dropped him on the ground, but you have to do these things sometimes. And if you don't know how to have the police are not always going to be there. They can't always be there. But it's unfortunate because in school, I know as Henry, they teach them to, if someone hits them or assaults them, to cover up. Of course, I told him to hit back. Actually, he got thrown in juvenile jail one night because this guy kept picking, like your situation, kept picking on him. He told the teacher. The teacher told the person to stop. Then he told the teacher's aide. Teacher's aide told the guy to stop. It wouldn't stop, so Henry punched him in the nose. He's bleeding all over. They locked him up till the next day in juvenile jail for protecting himself.
You know, we're this society trying to raise weak
Yeah,
boys.
yeah, and it starts when they're kids.
Sorry, Ken. I'm thankful that I'm glad that my oldest is in the military, and the youngest one he had some bumps in the road, but he knows the importance of being able to defend himself. So it's very important, especially as a man. Then also too, we don't think about this. Women look at if you're able to really protect me.
Right.
We never talk about that in society. We never talk about that much, especially in these circles. Women look for a man that at the end of the day, we always talk about protection. We're always thinking financial, but she's looking, can you at the end, and when it goes 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a bump in the night, who's going to go downstairs? Downstairs is going to be you or it's going to be her. And if you say, hey, baby, you go down there, I'm going to go back to sleep and hide under the covers, she's never going to respect you again.
Right. Right.
It's
Well, that's the one thing when a guy comes over to take Pauline out, the boy, we usually go out and intimidate the boys and I'll ask him, what are you going to do if somebody comes up and messes with her? Well, you know what the right answer is, but I don't think we've got anybody to give the right answer yet.
There was one person.
Was there?
Yeah. He said, it was Cameron. You said he gave the best answer because he said something like, I would crack the hell out of him or something.
Well,
like
it's
that.
important because if I'm going to let them go out and somebody bothers her, I want to know that he's going to do the best he can to protect her. Why should I let them go to the movies or wherever they go? That's about all they do is go to the movies or something. But she runs into a lot of, can you verify that, Paulina? She runs into a lot of weak men. Have you ever gone out with anybody you felt safe with if someone tried to rob you or assault you?
One person, but that's it.
Yeah. So, and did he stay strong or did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's. So, what'd you break up with that guy for?
He broke up with me.
Oh, he broke up with you. But yeah, there's a real assault on masculinity. I know that. But like I said, if we had a war, they'd be begging for masculinity. Or let's say the Chinese invaded us, they'd be begging for toxic masculinity because it takes what they call toxic masculinity to protect the country.
It's interesting because if that was to happen and it was an invasion, all the masculine women would suddenly be cured and become feminine. It would be like Thanos.
Snapping his fingers.
That's what I'm feminine. Oh my God! Please help me, save me. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
that's exactly what would happen. It's amazing. It's only because we are not in a place of threat.
Exactly.
That's
we have no adversity. We have no challenges. It's like we have to have extreme sports because nobody's challenged anymore. We've made things so easy. That's ironic. We have to work out because we made everything so easy. Nobody works. Few people work anymore, unless you're in the trades. I mean, I'm in the trades, so we work. But I mean, most people don't actually work. Everything is just you can just sit at home and gain weight. I can DoorDash. I just got to walk over there and pick it up, and I could get one of the kids to do that for me. So.
Yeah. That's my DoorDash.
Yeah. You also say, Dad, how we're in the safest country in the world. We're in one of the safest countries in the world. Yeah. There's no danger, no excitement.
I mean, you can go places where it's dangerous, but compared to third world countries, every time I fly back when I used to go to Latin America, it's like a relief. It's so clean, it's so safe compared to those places. It's like living in the Wild West down there. In Latin America, where we were in Guatemala, they still lynch people. If they catch someone stealing anything, they will chase them down, beat them up, and if they survive the beating, they pour gasoline on them and burn them. And that's a common occurrence down there.
Yes, and guess what happened? It minimizes you trying to steal because you know the
Yeah,
consequences. We have no consequences. We have no immediate consequences for our action,
right.
and we have due process, but we don't have due consequences of which if you do
Mhm.
something wrong. And like in
Yeah,
Africa, and like they're actually, if hey, you stole something, you want short sleeves or you want long sleeves? Your hand, you're gonna lose that hand. So it's
yeah,
in. We
yeah.
don't
And
have
you
that.
said, yeah, and you made a point there that reminded me of something in the city down there. They have bars on all the doors and windows, okay, but those are mostly the city people. They're more modernized. But you get out in the country where the people still dress in the original, It's not the original, but the traditional clothes. They don't have bars on windows. They don't have anything out there because you get caught doing something wrong out there, they deal with you. But in the city, sometimes the police can rescue the criminal. That's basically what happens. But out there is no rescue from the police if you do something. So actually, they're not as barred up out there as they are in the city, where it's more civilized.
Right. It's not as needed as much. And that's
Right.
amazing. It's amazing in how far we have gone as a civilization. Even when in the area where I lived at, it was still uh, area where I lived at, you still had to have, we call it have your head on the swivel. You had to watch where you were at. Yet
Right.
enough, it's not like a third world country. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think we can? Let me see. What can we do about the lack of or how can we improve the outlook on masculinity here in the West, considering it seems to be getting a bad rap? What can we do other than, I think we can mentor young men, but what do you think we can do to, I don't know, increase masculinity or at least give it a better view, or how can we combat this attack on masculinity, you think?
I think the best thing that we as men can do is to not compromise, not apologize,
Mhm.
and not um, feel sorry for being masculine
Right.
and be unapologetic about it. I'm unapologetically a masculine man.
Yeah.
So much so, whether if you like it or not, it's too bad. And I think what happens is it always starts with us. It always starts as an individual. Once it becomes individual, until we change as an individual and embrace that, we can never change the world around us. So
Right.
it start individually within, and then it affects everything around us. Then we have what's the next extended thing from us? Our family. So you have sons, I have sons. Now my sons need to see not just me talk about masculinity,
Right.
they need to see me walk in my masculinity. Now
Yeah.
into my workplace when I do, because I work with a lot of guys, they know I can joke around, but at the end of the day, I will get you if you cross me. You don't
Yeah.
want to cross me. So it comes there to now my extended, and then it goes from there on. Like back in the day, I know you know the clear all. I call it a clear all system, clear all syndrome, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
See, now some people would call that, well, he's a violent man. If you cross him, he's gonna do that. But that's what they try to shame you for that. But the reality is, you're just being a man. That's what they always want to. Certain groups want to badmouth someone and say they're violent for that until someone comes in from another country and attacks us. We as a nation don't lay down for anybody, do we? We even go out there and attack countries that are being attacked, even though we have nothing to do with it. So, but yet they want the individuals to comply, I suppose, so that we can be controlled more easily. Even in school, I was non-compliance in school. My kids are about the same. So,
Hmm.
but they start young, and I saw some clips the other day where they're actually there's memes out there and different things that actually tell young kids that it's bad to be a man, or that there's something wrong with them because they're a boy inherently. I can't remember what they were, but I didn't realize there was so much of an attack on
Mhm.
on masculinity. It was another creator, and they showed clips, news clips, and different things. I'm like, I didn't even know that was going on. It
It's
was
interesting.
amazing.
It's interesting. My son, he was at an Ivy League school, and I said, "Well, how was his first year? Like, how was it, son? Oh, it's good. I had a good time. I got my grades together. Yeah, I went, yeah, but I know you. You went partying. Yeah, I was partying, Dad. Yeah, I was partying, went here, went there. I said, well, what is the percentile of men and women down there? He said, Dad, it's about 80, it's about almost 95% women and 10% men, and then let alone he's a minority, even cut that in half.
Really?
Interesting. I said, so how do you navigate through this, being who you are? Because he's very masculine. He said, I just be me. If you don't like it, hey, too bad.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, I didn't know, like you said, it was that bad, the attacks on men and little boys and teenagers for just being a man.
Yeah.
It's startling to me, and it's actually sort of hurtful because I'm like, wow. But you know what? I can't be too much wowed by it because, just to be very transparent, I can see it in my own family.
Yeah.
Because just this week, I had someone say something about that I was being so much toxic masculinity on my channel because I said something about women. I said, how could you feel it about me and I'm your nephew? Why would you do that? Don't you know I love women? No, he hates women. And he went on to call my mother. Oh, Lawrence, he hates women. He said this. I said, oh my, how dare you, my good uncle? I love women. And I realized the real problem is he's been fishtailed into the narrative
Yeah.
that masculinity is toxic, and he's bought into it. And he's from another generation, and
Right.
he's far gone. There's nothing I can do to save him.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been called a misogynist, and I expect there's some people don't think heck, I've been married 4 times. I've had 10 kids. One of them was adopted. I love women. I just don't. I mean, here's what I like a traditional woman, but I seen a talk show, it might have been Oprah 20 years ago. And there was a man on there, and he said, well, I want a wife that stays home and cooks and cleans and takes care of the kids. And he got railed by the audience. You want a slave. But it's my idea that why is she any more of a slave than I am? I'm out there working to provide a home, a safe home, protection, provision, everything she needs. And I was telling this to the hairdresser yesterday, and she said, how did she put it? Well, she doesn't have any freedom. I said, she's not locked up in the house. More than likely, she's going to have a car. She can go wherever she wants. A good woman will manage the household where a man can go out there and do what he needs to do. She manages the household and whatever needs to be done, the groceries and all that. But when I say this, I'm considered a misogynist, or I've had people say, what rock did you crawl out from under? Or are you back in the 13th century?
Mhm.
Why? Because I want to protect and provide, and I want my kids to be raised by their mother instead of a minimum wage daycare worker with whatever morals or immorals she has.
Right. And it's interesting that you say that because so I lost my train of thought. Let me bring it back. But I know of a famous author who a lot of guys in the street idolize. He didn't realize that he wasn't raised by his parents. He was actually, for bad terms, he got molested by his babysitter, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
messed up his life trajectory until he passed away. And it's interesting. We never think about the importance of a mother being there. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. My father went out. I'm so glad my mother was there when I came home. Imagine when I came home with my mom. I mean, I'm not saying nothing. I was glad my dad, but we never think about it. Women say that that will be slavery, but we never think about it. Is it slavery that a man has to go out and provide for his household?
Exactly.
That be slavery?
I know. I agree 100%.
And I did it when I was married. I took her off. I took her off of her job so she can take care of my oldest son at the time. So that I had to go to work. But the house was taken care of, and most of all, what was most important to me, my son was taken care of.
Yeah.
By his mother.
Well, we've had this. I don't watch the news, but you hear what's going on. The baby formula shortage. Okay. It's like, don't women have breasts? That's not Bob, but they're all working, so they can't. I mean, these 6 kids was raised when their mother and I was together. They were all breastfed. I mean, it doesn't cost a thing, and I think it was better for them. They say it's healthier, but now women, of course, are all out there working, and I understand some women don't have a man; they have to work. But these women that say, well, I'd like to stay home with my kids, well, get rid of one of those 2 Escalades you have, cut down from that $750,000 home, and you could probably stay home with your kids. what are we telling the children? You know what we're telling them? The materialism and money is more important than you, or I'll ship you off to the daycare. They've done studies on how much money a woman really needs to make to justify putting one or two kids in daycare. It's usually more than any of them are making.
Yeah, it is. And it's a
You know,
sad
but
scenario. I mean, I actually said a woman that actually breastfeeds, the child actually um, statistically and psychologically becomes smarter than those children who are not. So
right?
yeah, so it's important that because it's that bonding that takes place.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I think a lot of times we think that that's not important, but actually we are human. Actually, we are animals at least. We need that. And
yeah,
so to take that away from a child, now we bring up a child who's now lacking in that particular area. They could have been nurtured by their mother, and they also could have been going to the next level as far as within their development of their mind.
right. Yeah, very important. Okay, move on to the next. I have another point here. What do you think about the marriage situation here in the U.S. with a 50% divorce rate and 70% initiated by the women? What's your views on that?
It's interesting because I was the one who initiated. But
Yeah,
what I think is people do not want to be accountable, and people don't realize that getting married, it's work.
yeah,
I don't care what nobody being in a relationship is work. And I think a lot of times we want the easy road out because everybody want to glamorize um oh, I want the wedding. I got the dress. I got the
yeah,
flower girl. I got the best man. And oh, I look so pretty. And oh, he look at him and he got the ring, but they don't think about it after the wedding. So most people are has fantasized the wedding, but they have not glamored it, and they forgot that the real work is after the wedding. So now people are not don't want to take responsibility that it takes work to be married.
right.
So we have a lot of women who have a lot of women who say, you know what, I wanted the wedding, but I didn't want the work of being a wife. That's a problem. I
Yeah,
went
and
through
when,
a second wife.
and when does the real love begin? When the feelings fade,
Oh
and you
yeah,
got to get up every morning and do whatever you got to do, even though you don't feel like it. See, I
yeah,
think we're so much into the feels before reals now that a woman, you've heard this, I'm sure. Well, I just don't feel like I love you. I don't feel like I love him anymore. What's that got to do with? To me, real love is a verb. It's an action. It's
mhm,
like these kids. You know, I've taken care of them by myself for 11 years now. Think I felt like it all the time? No, I didn't feel like it, but I did it because I love them. I don't always feel like I didn't feel like I loved them when they were getting in my face,
right.
but I did. So that's it right there. Too many people are thinking, well, the feeling's gone, that then I don't love them. And so many times their girlfriends might, well, yeah, you need to find someone that you really, you know, what do they tell women? Live your truth or do what's right. Oh, do what's right for you. Not what's right, but do what's right for you.
That's the whole scenario. That's what happened with my second marriage. That was thing. It was more of I want the big. We had a big wedding, candles going down the church. The sun was coming in just right. I don't know how we did it. I don't know how she did it, but the sun was coming in. My niece was the flower girl. We had 8 on this side, 8 on that side, and it lasted 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. I know.
And my thing is, I don't even at this age. I think it's important that we realize that we allow people to realize marriage is nothing to play with. First of all,
Right.
it's a commitment to yourself. I didn't say to the other person first. That's what most people miss. It's a commitment to yourself. Then it becomes a commitment to the other individual. And if you have any
Right.
religious, spiritual things, it's a commitment to God. And so I
Yeah.
think that's where people miss it at. And it has nothing, like you said, to do with your feelings. It has to do with your commitment to yourself, commitment to that other individual, and then a commitment to God.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't want to be accountable or stay in committed relationships anymore. And then we got the 50% that do last. And how many times I've heard this: men and women, men been married for years and they haven't had sex with their wife for maybe 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, well, the last time I was married, there were times when my wife wanted to be with me and I didn't want to be with her, but I was because I believed you shouldn't deny each other. But now it's almost like for the men, if he wants to be with her and the woman doesn't want to, then they connotate it like rape or something. If he convinces her or she's with him, well, yeah, I'm with him. You're not always going to feel like it, but if you don't want your spouse out running around, you actually, that's part of the marriage contract, is you don't deny each other, in most of them anyway, are the religious ones. So, but yet we have a lot of that going on, it seems like today. And I don't know. I just don't know what, like, I got 5 boys, and of course they're going to want to have kids someday. I don't know what to tell them. I mean, I tell my daughter, if you want to get married, go ahead. But the boys, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it here in the States. I believe in marriage. I do, obviously, but I don't believe in marriage here in the States. It's too much government involvement, and
Yeah.
it looks too easy to get out of. The last 2, 3 women I was married with, I had one of them tell me, "You're a good father and a good husband, but I just can't live this kind of life." I'm like, "What?" I was provider. She went off with the guy that just got out of jail and had an ankle bracelet on and was a meth head. So there you go. I mean, classic bad boy, because it got boring for her. And I can't say, maybe there were things I should have done to keep spice in the marriage, but there's going to be times, though, where it's not all wine and roses. It's difficult when you have kids. It's a lot of work. You can't be running around all the time. You don't have the money. You're trying to build up something, and it's tough. And you said it, commitment, that people just aren't willing to stick it out and be committed.
And that was the biggest thing. Like I said, in my second marriage, that was the biggest thing. It's a commitment to say, hey, we're going to stick this out. And once I seen the handwriting on the wall, I said, you know what? Next thing I know, I'm getting what do you call that? I'm getting served at my job. I said, you know what? It's quite interesting, but I will say, you know what? I can say this, and I can say this emphatically, that I am thankful for the women that I did marry. Taught me the greatest lessons. So a lot of times, a lot of guys want to speak disparagingly about their wives or who they were married to, what they deal with. I'm thankful for them, especially for the mother of my 2 children. I'm thankful for them. It taught me about myself, but most of all, it taught me more than anything I can learn on YouTube, because YouTube wasn't even out. It taught me about women in real time. So I cannot take that away from the whole experience of when I was married.
I have to agree 100%. I would not trade anything that happened to me. I'd had my kids taken away a few times, false accusations, but really, I wouldn't have the wonderful life I had to have today if it weren't for that terrible things that happened. So really, I got exactly what I wanted. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I never would have guessed. But yeah, I can't say anything bad either, because they really all helped me out, and that was the only way I could get to where, because I'm pretty arrogant, so humbled enough that I may accept the fact that I don't know everything, and maybe God or whatever, somebody knows better than me, and I'm going to go with that flow instead of trying to force my will upon situations. Had I got what I thought I wanted, I would not be as happy as I am today. So I have to remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that experience, and also too, it helped me to, like you said, because I was a little arrogant too. I think it helped me to appreciate my children even more. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I realized my sons, because I was living it up. My sons be in their lives, and if I was to go in the same trajectory that I was heading, my sons wouldn't have me in their life. I just would have been a name.
Right.
Just Lawrence, and that Lawrence is just my dad. Versus when my son called me last night at 1:00 in the morning from in South Korea, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" We can have a conversation about anything. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
That's important. Yeah, my kids brought me a Father's Day card today. Of course, it's not till next weekend, but they seen one they like. So I mean, that was pretty cool. Yeah, there's something about a family that the word wealth means more than money. It means well-being. If you look up the original part of it, and there's so much more to life. I mean, I like money. I love money as much as anybody does, but there's so much more to life than that, because I have everything. My bills are paid. I'm okay, but I have something that money can't buy. It's my family, and for me, that's really important. Maybe for other people, it's not, but for me, that is success. And success is, the definition is, one is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal, and it's not so much the.
It's the
ballpark.
Yeah.
What is it?
The ballpark.
We got a ballpark. I don't know if that's good, but anyway, but it took all that to get me where I am today. Otherwise, I would have thought I did it all by myself. And as you know, I can't. We need each other.
Yeah.
We all need each other. None of us can do it alone.
No, not at all. And that's what I appreciate. And it's, to me, I have to say this. It's my first time talking to you and seeing you got your family involved. Do you know how strategic and how important that is? That right
Yeah.
there speaks more volumes than anybody can say on YouTube about all the stuff they say. I'm an alpha man and I do all this and all like that. If your family and your son and your daughter is there, guess what happens? Like you said, that is really true wealth. And I think a lot of times we have so escaped what wealth is to be
Right.
materialistic and not realize that true wealth is the three individuals sitting right at your table and you're sitting at the head. That is wealth.
Yeah.
You may
No.
not always agree, you may not always like each other, you might not see eye to eye, but the true wealth is when you can sit at the table and dad's at the head of the table. That is wealth.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. And we got Frank at the camera. He's my other son, and then my other son's here, and two of my boys work for my other company. And so, I mean, that just like you say, sometimes I'm out there, and that is such a see. They used years ago, families used to work on the farm or whatever in the family business, and I have that today, and that is really sometimes I see them working, and to train them and for them to learn from me is, sometimes it's more difficult because they'll talk to me the way they wouldn't talk to a boss, but then sometimes I talk to them the way a boss wouldn't talk to them.
Right.
But in the end, there's a great feeling of, get out of bed. Come on. If you're working somewhere else, you should be fired. But there's a great feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction. And for a man, that fulfillment really has nothing to do with happiness. It's you know the feeling when I'm talking about fulfillment. And that's what we really strive for.
Yeah.
And when we have goals and visions and dreams and we're striving for those, it's not the destination, because I've reached goals that were very important to me, but it's like, for a couple hours you're kind of high, and after that it's like, what now? If you're looking at that as the end all, and that's it, that's not it. It's the journey. And they're with me on the journey, and like you said, it's a wonderful thing that that not everybody gets to experience.
No, I mean that's what I think a lot of people, especially on YouTube, I call these YouTubians, they get robbed of is the ability to and have a family like that. And then also too, what we don't look at on a deeper level is your DNA. Your DNA is now passed into the future. So when you're no
Right.
longer on the scene, there will always be you on the scene.
Yeah, a legacy. You
always
have a
be a
legacy. Yeah.
There'll always be a legacy. And what we don't talk about enough is for men to have a legacy. And
Yeah.
that's so important in this space and what we do. And then you have a legacy of masculinity.
Right.
You want to say, dad was a weak man. Man, we just ran over dad. We did whatever we want. Guess what? They're going to say, no, I remember sitting at the table, dad, and he said this and he said that. Like, I had something I used to say to my sons. They had a little mantra they used to say, it's easy to make wealth. It's easy to get wealth. It's easy. I'm here for a purpose. And I go through it. I'm here for a purpose. I had them go through a little saying. If I was to call any one of them up today, they can go over that little saying that I created for them when they were kids. They wouldn't get that, but they were going to take that on to my what? Grandkids now.
Right.
So part of me goes on to my grandkids by me making a decision to be in their life and to speak into their lives. So the seed is planted for the next generation.
Right. And that's what we're supposed to do, is to pass it on. It was passed on to us. We pass it on. And back to masculinity, that's what we need to do, is pass it on. Because if we don't pass it on, it's going to die out. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, you're right. I was glad my father got to see my 5 sons before he passed on. He wasn't able to talk, but he had his right mind, and it made me happy. Because we were out of the country. We came back, and I took care of him before he passed on for about 4 years. But I feel good because he knew that his name was going to live on. And then what he passed on to me will be passed on also. So
that's interesting. After my wife and I, we went our separate ways, and I lived in Atlanta. Everybody was up in Cleveland. My father put me aside. He said, "Listen, son, whatever you do, and I know you're having fun." I said, "Yes, I'm having fun, Dad. I'm in Atlanta. I'm having fun. I'm in Atlanta fun." He said, "I don't care nothing about that. You make sure you take care of your sons. Promise me that." And I said, "I promise I'll take care of my sons." That one promise was so engrafted in me that when situations and issues came up and I had to come back to Cleveland and I didn't have anything, the one thing I knew what kept me going to the next level is that I had to take care of my sons. And from that impact, I'm glad I came back to Cleveland to be a part of my son's life, to see the baseball. Well, they did. One played baseball, one played football, of course, they played basketball, the different sports and the different accomplishments, and just being there. And the impact that dad was there and he wasn't on the telephone, that made the difference. And I wouldn't trade anything in the world. So that promise, I made sure I kept.
Yeah, it's very important to be a part of your kids' lives. Very important. And that's, once again, back to the day we have, like I said, I get to work with my kids, and being self-employed entrepreneur, I spend a lot of time with my kid. I mean, even when they're not working with me, I'm here, I'm available. And what we have now too is a lot of men and women going off to work, dropping their kids in daycare. Even if they're not, they get home, their kids go to the room, get on the computer. They don't even know their kids. They have no relationship. And relationships are really what life's all about. The relationships we have with people. They say your success will be, I think 85% of your success will be determined by your ability to form relationships with other people. And I believe that's true. So if you can't have relationships with the people in your family, it's going to be difficult to have relationships out there. And of course, the people in our family usually are the most difficult relationships. So if you can learn how to do it there, it's easy outside the door.
Yeah, it is. They will test your boundaries and they will test your grit. Trust me, my youngest son has did that, and I still love him.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, you know what, son? Because he's here, he's off from college and he's here working during the summer. I said, hey, so you know what, son? We need to go out and have dinner. We need to just go. I just want to go out and hear from you. I don't want to do the talking. I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
That's important to take that time. I do it collectively. They're both here, but I make sure I do it individually because they need that individual time with dad.
Right.
And I can say certain things that I couldn't say to the one that I can say to the other. But I know what they're going to do. They're going to come back together and talk about it amongst themselves. You know, dad said that to you. He said that to me too. I know how it works. I understand. I had a brother, so I know.
Yeah. No, I understand that. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up here. I got a meeting. I know you got to go. Well, I appreciate you coming. You want to, once again, tell us where we can find you?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube, Lawrence D. Adams on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Where else am I at? Yeah, those social medias, you can find me there when I talk about spirituality and the game. And I think it's very important that you can get those two together. You can find me though, YouTube, Instagram, and did I miss one? TikTok. You can find me there.
All right. Well, it was great to have you, man. I knew it'd be good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care.